Well, welcome back to my channel. This is my Carolina Carport metal building put up 2 years ago. What I'm going to be talking about today is sealing off the bottom of this building to keep rain from coming in whenever we get hard rains. A light rain doesn't seem to bother it too much, but a hard rain, I do get rain from the outside, obviously, and underneath the framework of the building on the floor, and it makes the floor wet. So what I'm going to discuss about a little bit is how I did mine to seal it off. And you can see along the bottom here of the metal panels on the front, I used a Tremco product to seal it with. This is, I got it in my other hand here. Hang on, I get it turned up. This is Tremco Dimonic FC. Now, I've used Tremco products for years. They're great products. They adhere well. They don't harden. They stay flexible, somewhat rubbery, and they will move with the expansion of the metal because of the heat. You know, you get a lot of expansion, contraction, and they adhere well to the concrete. That's a big thing. A lot of caulkings and stuff will not adhere to concrete very well. Silicone being one of them. I've always had trouble with silicone adhering to concrete the way this stuff does, and it really doesn't stick to the metal panels well when they get hot. The silicone seems to want to bake off. I'm not a big fan of silicone. I mean, there's places to use it, but this isn't the place, I don't think. So anyway, show you around the side here. Them's the panels that was left over whenever they put the building up, and a piece of trim and stuff like that. I told them guys that put my building up, I said, whatever you don't want to take back, you just let it here. So they left me about 4 metal panels that they had extras with them. So anyway, there's how I sealed the bottom off the whole way along, the whole way back there. I started in the back. I haven't done caulking for a number of years. My last job that I retired from was an administrator, so I didn't have to do a lot of the physical work anymore. Didn't have to do any physical work, really. My job was all computer. But anyway, so I started in the back where you wouldn't see it to try and get my feel for caulking again. I used to be pretty good at it, could lay down a pretty nice bead. Some of these got a little funky, ain't perfect, but who cares? Especially back here, that's a metal building. What do I care? As long as it seals it off. You know, if somebody doesn't like the way it looks, look in another direction, whatever. But anyway, there's how I sealed the bottom of my building off. Now, when they built the building, I knew there wasn't going to be any outside trim. Whenever I used to build metal buildings and pole buildings this at 30 years ago, and at least 30 years ago, we would put a Z trim on the bottom here. It would go up behind this panel, come out across here, and then drop down the face here. And that would seal the bottom off. You couldn't get water behind it. And then we would caulk the joints where where we had overlaps on the trim. They told me that there was no base trim on this. That's why they wanted the concrete pad oversized when you build the concrete pad, so that the metal sets right on the concrete. Well, the only way to seal it off was, number one, knowing that, I went to Lowe's and I bought this stuff. This is Seal, S-I-L-L, Sealer, S-E-A-L-E-R, Seal Sealer, and put it around underneath the framework. I'll show you inside here. I put it underneath the framework whenever they were building the building. You see the channel down there, the square channel on the bottom. So I don't know if you can see the blue sealer underneath it or not. I'll see if I can get that down there. You can't really see it, but there is blue seal sealer underneath there. Whenever they put the building up, I went ahead in front of these guys and put it down and stuff. So, but I must have some low spots in the floor. This side's the worst over here. This is the worst over here. Back along, about halfway back along this wall. You can see all my junk I got piled in here. Trying to be organized, but man, it ain't working out too well. I just own too much junk, I'm realizing. But yeah, every time you throw something away, 2 weeks later, you got to go buy it brand new because you needed it. So, but anyway, back along here is where I would get in a lot of water there. Back along there where my table saw and stuff is at, back in there. So I must have some low spots here in the concrete. You're going to get that. Nobody pours perfect concrete. So this was my way of sealing it off around the bottom to try and make sure that I could get it to stop leaking. Now this is the weather side. The weather comes from this side right here. This is the west facing side. And like I say, on a light rain, I don't get any water. But boy, if we get hard rains, and this spring we've had some very hard rains this year, and this is what I come up with to seal it off, and it works. You know, like I say, whenever we used to build pole buildings and stuff, we always had a trim piece down there. Matter of fact, I built my buildings. They had a 2x6 or 2x8 womanized skirt board around the bottom. Then this metal panel here sit on the outside of that skirt board, and the trim went underneath that. The steel buildings had a preformed piece that anchored to the concrete that set out and then come out and made that return down on the concrete, and then the metal building panel come out and attach to that bottom formed piece on that they had. This is okay the way they did this. I just wish I had known this beforehand. I didn't really know this was going to be this way beforehand. I knew there was no trim, but I didn't know what it was going to look like. Any of these buildings I had gone to see were not on concrete. They were all dirt floors. So I didn't really know exactly what to expect. So, but I'm okay with this. This worked. But that's why they tell you to build your floor 4 inches wider and 4 inches longer. That gives them an opportunity to square the building up, and it also gives them, you know, something to rest that base on, that bottom on there. And then, like I say, and then you got to caulk it or something, which is no big deal. No, it didn't cost me. It only took me I got 80 feet out of one tube of caulking, so I got the whole back. This is a 30 by 50, so I got the whole back, one whole side out of a tube of caulking. The front, you know, with this big door opening that I'm not caulking, the second tube, I actually got a little bit left over, so that worked really well. So that's how I sealed off the bottom of my building. I think I've seen numerous videos on YouTube where people are sealing off the bottoms, and this is what I come up with. And it looks pretty good. I mean, it's good enough for me. It'll last my lifetime. But anyway, so if you're watching this video, I figure you're interested in carports or sealing off a carport, or you want to see more about a carport. This is my version. This is my way. Right, wrong, or indifferent. This is how I did it. And it's working. It seems to be fine. There's no problem with it that way. So just an idea for anybody that may be thinking about trying to seal off the bottom of their building, or they're thinking about a carport and you know what they could anticipate when you buy one and things like that. There's what it might be. So anyway, I hope this helps somebody out, and thank you for watching. God bless.